Minahan.
Welcome to Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Rose Minahan and her panel of guests bring you leading-edge astrology conversations through a journey of soul growth patterns connecting astrology's energetic cycles. Get ready to understand your path in the cosmic roots of the stars.
Hello, I'm Sue Rose Minahan, founder of Talk Cosmos, Leading Edge Conversations, Awakening Your Authentic Self for Soul Growth. And today is June 26th, 2022. And we are discussing the new moon in Cancer in 2 days. It's 7 degrees of Cancer and 22 minutes. And our theme is going to be release, heal, grow. The moon rules Cancer, so it's in its own domicile. The moon reflects light. That's something important to remember. It's also a yin, as they call it, energy, receptive. A water sign, it's emotional. It rules, you could say it is our emotional stories. So what will be the new stories? Let's find out, because those seeds that we've planted, they need some room to root and really grow. This is time for archetypal symbols.
Learning about current transits and exploring soul growth cosmic conscious energies applied to natal transit chart readings provided from the audience. This is your Kaleidoscope Visions panel. Synthesizing the current archetypal new moon energies through weaving symbol systems such as Sabian Symbols, numerology, Mayan novel energy days, or even Tarot, connecting to the astrological data and concepts for planets and cosmos. This is your Archetypal Symbols panel.
I'm Sue Rose Minahan, founder of Talk Cosmos, an evolutionary and eclectic astrologer and consultant, plus a certified color energy coach. I love investigating mythology's language, philosophizing esoteric fields of eternity, a perpetual student of life, seeing oneness of bodies, spirit of people, animals, and nature. I explore creative expression as an artist, a musician, and write abundantly, poetry to stories, and celebrate humanity's individuated, co-creative life force experience.
I'm Elizabeth Liz Muschett, a professional astrologer, intuitive, numerologist, and tarot reader. I'm a certified sacred healing counselor, providing nurturing, in-depth consultations for individuals and couples. I'm an author, blogger, speaker, and international Reiki master and teacher. I create safe space in which to explore the deeper patterns of your life, to clarify your current circumstances and help you find your best path forward.
I'm Justin Crockett, Elzie, an archetypal astrologer, teacher, and author. I combine both Western ancient astrology and modern psychological astrology with Eastern Vedic astrology, and I specialize in predictive, electional, and karmic astrology for individuals and couples. I'm a certified aromatherapist, an essential oil specialist, and an herbalist, and I offer remedial modalities of plants for psychological life issues to empower clients with compassionate healing. I also do in-depth astrological research into arcane astrological concepts, focusing on the mystical, occult side of astrology.
Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "Yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, and today is a gift." And that's why it's called the present. Oh, I rather like that little saying that we have. Hi, Justin. Hi, Liz. It's good to see you both very much. Well, it's 7. Let's start with that. There's so many 7s in this chart. It's just incredible. And it is the, I know we do Sabians, but let's start with the numbers.
Yes, the 7 is the sun and the moon, Venus, Jupiter, and is it Maki, Sue, that you were talking about, the 7 degrees? So we have, quite a bit of energy there at 7 degrees. And the number 7 is about reflection, analysis,
to contemplate, working behind the scenes, and retreat. And
Well,
the seventh, go ahead.
No, please.
The seventh major tarot card is the Chariot, which represents the sign of Cancer. So it's like a lot of 7 and Cancer energy is reinforced with the Cancer new moon.
Now, why is, both of you, I will ask, why is the Chariot with Cancer? I mean, I think of a chariot as the sun running across the sky, but that's not it. I know that the Chariot has, I mean, I can see the card, but can you explain why is it Cancer? Maybe?
Well, that's how I learned it. But the Chariot, it was sent out to like scope out the neighborhood or the immediate area to make sure it's safe and secure, to see if people were coming to attack.
Oh, yes, safety and security. I understand that. And really, there's a lot of mythology. Who birthed who? Diana or Apollo? Both of them. Pardon me, I'm going. Justin, do you have a thought?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with what Liz is saying, that 7 energy, and to the tarot, Robert Place talks about this, that really it's kind of in the line, the whole major arcana is the soul's journey, and the 7th, when we get to that 7th, after the full, but is the 7th card was kind of the where it was at as far as in order as how it was assigned. But that 7, when we're in a personal year of 7, like Liz is talking about, is a year of introspection. And there's, 7 is the number out of time. It's the spiritual number. 7 loaves in the Bible, 7 directions in Native American spirituality. And of course, Aleister Crowley wrote the book 777. So 7 is very spiritual and as Liz was talking about, introspective and a number.
Good. A spiritual number. Go ahead. Yes, spiritual. I remember that.
7 days of the week and the 7 visible planets. So it's you can go on and on.
Yeah, and an indivisible number itself. I mean, 7. So excellent. We have amazingly a plethora of 7s. We also have a plethora and numbers close to that. Vesta's at 6, the hearth, and Lilith, I think, is at 8, which is one of the forms of the feminine. And we know in the world that we're living in, the feminine, in any sense, is really getting a lot of attention. We're trying to figure out what are the rights of all of our feminine energies, I guess. So
I was going to also point out, when you say 7s and you're looking at the planets, there's also a couple of, 2 or 3 of them are also that have 7 in the numerology. So both the ascendant are the part of fortune, they're at 17, and the Uranus is 17, both have 7 in them. And then Pallas is 27 degrees and Pluto's 27 degrees. So there's some other sub level things going on with the 7 in the chart besides the major 7.
Super. For instance, with that, and we're speaking, folks, of the chart, which you haven't seen yet, of the East Coast. We always use that because it's speaking on terms of the national, the whole. And so Washington, D.C. is the seat of our political, power and all that. So 17 Aquarius, yes, that is the rising. So that would be leadership and spiritual, you would hope, perhaps, thinking of that. And of course, it equals an 8. Boy, we're having a little bit, I don't know, is that a drum beat somebody has there? I don't know. At any rate, so, well, maybe we should go to the Sabians of 7, what that would be. Say 7 new moon, which would be 7 Cancer, if we want to.
2 nature spirits dancing under the moonlight. Mysterious, magical, and invisible forces at work in the background.
This is Dane Rudhar. Yes, so, and really, I think then it builds on to 8, which is the actual Sabians. It's interesting to me that it was 2 dancing because I mean, you could dance by yourself, but it's two. And so many things. And then the 8 is a group. And interestingly, they're rabbits. I don't know if that has because rabbits like procreate, it's like there's abundance. But the idea was if they're, and I'm reading from what you had sent here, dressed in human clothes, walk as if in a parade, and meaning it imitates this higher form to stimulate growth. So perhaps we're working to reflect from our spiritual essence so much in this chart to integrate in order to evolve, to reform, in a sense.
And can Dame Rudyard looked at that because when we look at Cancer is really in those first 10 degrees of Cancer. And the way Dame Rudyard looked at the archetypal symbols was it's Cancer rules creativity and creation. And so when we look at the degrees of those first 10 degrees and the Sabian symbols, there's a lot around creativity and specifically with the two nature spirits. He talks about creative imagination. And of course, the 6 degrees before that is the game birds, increasing or, feathering their nest. So there's this thing about creativity and then creative imagination with the two nature spirits. And then, of course, the rabbits is this archetype of imitation or learning process as we grow around that. And so that I always find it interesting. The first 10 degrees of Cancer is this thing coming out of the egg and learning how to learn and grow in the world.
Really, the gestation of it, yes, but in the world. Right. It's right after the solstice. Because I was thinking of the chart, thank you for that, Justin. I was looking at the chart because we just had that solstice, and there Jupiter, the planet of our belief systems, was right next to the moon. And they were in this tension with our will, sort of these emotional stories of our belief systems. And now, of course, the moon, which rapidly goes 13 degrees almost, every day. So it moves the fastest. And now it's aligned with our will, but Jupiter is still out there going, nope, nope, nope. Now it's like that unification of our evolution or the growth that you're saying. I love the word of imagination, but we're really struggling in a sense with our belief systems. And of course, more than that, other people's belief systems. It's pretty potent.
Yeah, and you said spirit, and I think of nature and nurture and our spirit and our soul. It's like to combine it all.
Yes, that is the promise, isn't it? And there is, as we had discussed, a lot of that. Did you want to look at the chart? Shall I pull it up?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that might. Okay, there we go. Let's see, the next one. There we are. Okay, so in this chart, it's in the creative 5th house too. So we all have a chance to work on it. And I will say too that this seems to be a cultural change. There's a dwarf planet, and thank you, Liz, for including it. Maki, it's out. It's trans-Neptunian. It's part of the Plutinos, as they call it now, that Pluto's the dwarf planet. But Maki is from Easter Island, the god there that essentially, when you look at it, has a lot to do with culture. It's transforming the culture, and it's also an enterprise. It's not just yourself. You're working with the enterprise of your group, your culture. So it seems like, and it's opposing Jupiter there because it's 7 degrees. It moves slowly. The orbit's like 309 years. So right now it's at 7 degrees Libra up there in the.
And it would be square to the sun and moon, forming a T-square. So
Right.
some tension there.
Very much. And that's what we're experiencing. We can see it in living daylight, that we're going through a large process of, and which is not that unfamiliar. We are in this Pluto return, which next week we'll be discussing on our part 2, as it'll be exact. But okay, so there's a lot of other energies
And
that
the chart for Washington, D.C., most of the points or planets are below the horizon. And, we're at summertime and we have the urge to get out and do things, but we have the number 7, which is kind of retreat. But then all the planets are below the horizon. So that's another indication of kind of going within. So there's kind of, you could say, a little friction of like, I want to get out, but I want to stay home, or I want to be by myself, but I want to engage with other people. So I would say try to make space and time for both.
Yeah, I'll add Linda Berry, who's been on. She has a vibrational diary every day. So I looked at it, and there's a combination in vibrational astrology, and it brought Mercury with Saturn and Uranus, and and the reason I'm bringing it up is because it parrots what you're saying, both of you, about this inside energy of reflection with the 7 and below the horizon. Again and again, we keep getting it in different directions from the universe, which is what we understand with astrology. It's a cycle coming here. But with those 3, the vibrational is turning inward, seeking deep to share within those special gifts and awarenesses of ourself. So it's amazing. All this.
And I think there's a lot of good energy in the chart right now, or a lot of what we say a trine right now. There's actually a grand trine right now with that sun and moon with Hygeia and Vesta. So there's this really a lot of support going on right now towards healing, with Vesta being in a grand trine, or Hygeia and Vesta being in a grand trine with the sun and the moon. So there is a focus. I think also, as we see that Hygeia has been in Scorpio and it's been, tracking the South Node, there's, I think, for the collective, this whole thing going on right now with working through really deep emotional stuff going on, especially in Scorpio.
Yeah, Hygeia signifies health. Yes, it just for folks, it's up there at the top of the chart. That little, it looks like a caduceus of Mercury, with the 2 serpents coming down. Yeah, and then Vesta looks like the little fire hearth there in the first house in Pisces. Good call. It is. It's promising. All this takes work. I see somebody's working on their house, which is very much like us. We're working on our thoughts. So we'll just use that as a little pattern in life. Not a problem. Yes.
Yeah, there's good things in there's forward movement, there's supportive movement, but there's also adjustments that still need to take place.
Oh, huge ones. It's so true. I think Jupiter, and it's amazing to see these, just the interactions, because if we're sticking with the 7s right now, we have Jupiter, the big planet of our beliefs, along with Venus of what we desire, and they're relating to each other. So people are relating to all kinds of a diversity of what they're attracted to and making their beliefs and everything else. The problem is that, well, it is a problem. I mean, because problems mean that something needs to get resolved, but this isn't a quick fix. This is a long-term approach that we're working out along with these tensions. Jupiter has a lot to say in this chart. I think the belief systems, it's square in tension to the actual new moon. It's ruling, guiding that midheaven where we're all trying to exert ourselves into the social realm. And it's also, there's a lot of emphasis.
Well, yeah, Jupiter and Aries to me. Jupiter and Aries generally means because Jupiter is a planet how we seek to grow and expand, and it's in Aries, so it's really being reactive right now and wanting to get things going. This quickening energy, but because it's squaring the nodes, there's this little bit of a speed bump or
The new moon, you mean? The new moon. It's squaring.
well, actually, Jupiter's also squaring the nodes as well, I believe.
Oh.
Isn't it? No,
No,
I take
it's
that back.
Saturn.
It's not.
It's Saturn. Yeah, the
But
brakes
yeah,
rather
it
than
is
the
squaring.
gas.
It is squaring the moon. I apologize. Yeah, you're right.
That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, because it was a couple of weeks ago squaring the nodes, but now it's squaring the moon and the sun.
But
But it's still this sort of this. We're not able to move forward as quick. That Jupiter has to encounter something
Oh,
here emotionally that
my
it has to deal
apology.
with.
My apology, because yes, Justin, you are correct. It is, we don't have that there, but it's in a sessi quadrate, which is like a square and a half to the node, to the south node. You're absolutely correct. I remember I was mentioning that. So, in other words, there is that tension with the nodes.
Right.
Yeah, indeed. So now that I've fully jumbled this around, I kind of like what, the tension
Yeah.
that you're talking about. Go ahead. Can you repeat kind of your thoughts on that?
Well, no, because Jupiter is helping us grow and expand, and it's in Aries, which is sort of this quickening of energy, and we want to get this done, we want to get this done, but because we're hitting a speed bump right now. So again, this is how do I say in causing us to be introspective, or we have to meet something and accomplish something before we can move forward and grow.
Maybe we should look at the Sabians for Jupiter. I know that Liz, you could
Sure.
read them. And
7 Aries, a man succeeds in expressing himself simultaneously in 2 realms. And to me, I said that that's the dualism, like the sky and the earth, spirit and matter, and the dual nature of man.
and then going to 8, where we're growing into for the Sabian. Go ahead.
A large woman's hat with streamers blowing by the east wind, protection and spiritual guidance.
So thinking of what you're saying, Justin, that really is a combat of action and stop and go, isn't it? Same ideas, like trying to merge, although ideally, if we were trying to, it goes along with the new moon of 7 with the 2 spirits dancing. We're trying to get into that whole reality, but yet we also have very much this the physical that we're working with, and how to listen, how to maybe receive. It takes time.
Well, and that Dane Rudyard talked about that 7 degrees or the 6 degrees before that is sort of this new dimension, and there's an archetype here with around the way one thinks structurally, and that having to be reassessed of how we think structurally with what we want as we move forward.
Well, thank you. That does remind me of Mercury, of course, which happens to be in its own sign of Gemini right now, 18 degrees. And it is in our 4th house as far as a nation. So it is really getting down to our roots. It correlates exactly what you're saying. And 18, I noticed too, 17, 18 is also a very popular number when it comes to this chart. It's amazing. Ceres, of grief, is in and sustenance, the archetype mother that of grain, and is at 19 Cancer. And then we have Uranus at 17 Taurus, of changes with our sense of survival. Chiron, our wounds that we're alchemizing to find out how to serve people in 16 Aries. Even Juno, our partnerships at 19. I mean, they're within a degree of each other, Pisces, the oneness of spirit.
And if I could bring up something that that kind of to say, because we know this new moon is in a couple of days here, but if we look back to what we've been through in the last couple of days, this whole thing, not to bring up anything politically, but in the Supreme Court decision happened on Roe v. Wade when the moon was conjunct Uranus in Taurus. And now the moon, as we move out of this energy of this thing that's affecting the collective, the moon is now moved through Gemini into Cancer. And so there is sort of, because Cancer rules the mother and the feminine, the divine feminine. I think there's this underlying thing of needing to really focus on the importance of the divine feminine here with the moon moving into Cancer and how we move emotionally forward and heal.
I'm glad you brought that up. And I had made reference to it. So, I think it's great to bring in the mundane because looking at it in a balanced way is so important. It is the elephant in the room that we're all dealing with. And it does get down to that tribal sense of who is our little collection. Well, thank you, Liz and Justin. This is Archetypal Symbols. And today is June 26th. We're talking about the new moon in Cancer in 2 days. We'll be right back. Thanks.
While we take a break from this week's edition of Talk Cosmos, let's take a look at this cycle's archetype. Currently, we are in the period of Cancer. By leaving a cycle based on connecting mental communication to the external, the energy of Cancer involves emotions, which create our personal story through our emotional associations and attachments. As a cardinal water sign that is nurturing, Cancer needs to process emotions in one's own internal rhythm of cycles in order to complete an evolution.
Hi, it's Dr. Laura Tad, and I wanted to let you know about my course in personal mythology. Now offered as a self-paced online class, you can explore the stories you live by and those you have inherited from your ancestors, culture, and society. This course comes with 8 30-minute check-ins with me as you move through each of the modules. Enrollment is ongoing. For more information or to register, please go to my website, mythicsky.com.
Talk.
Greetings. This is Dana Birnbach, evolutionary astrologer, and you are listening to Talk Cosmos on Alternative Talk 1150 AM, where we discuss the zodiac, our connection to it, and our roots in the stars.
Talk radio for the heart and soul. Alternative Talk 1150.
Hello, back. Okay, I was just looking at points, and I remember that we were talking about release, heal, grow. That's our subject. And that Cancer energy is healthy emotions and creativity, which is so strong. What a wonderful birthing point. And looking at that chart, which we don't have up at the moment, the ascendant, oh, thank you, Nathan, is right next to the part of fortune. And I remember in our little pre-chat, we noticed that despite the time zones, because you're in the West Coast, I'm in Hawaii, it remains right next to that's where it's located, despite the 3 time zones, because it's not always. I know that in my own personal chart, it's in the 5th house. So it isn't always at the ascendant. So this has some significance, at least from what I'm gathering, if I'm right about this. And what I'm getting to, for you both to pick up on, as you always do, I'm repeating this thought that we're moving to a threshold of happiness, joyful theme, and idealism, which isn't necessarily apparent when we look at, as we've all realized the last week, we're in quite a bit of turmoil as the country is renavigating, but then we're in that process of reestablishing ourselves. We're in a Pluto return. So I think it's it'll be a long process, but it does encourage me, this idea that also there's this other message, of health forward, through the debris, making space, I hope. What you
Well,
say?
if I may, before Liz says something, you were talking about that part of fortune and Aquarius, and Dane Rudyard talked about. Of course, we look at part of fortune as happiness. You parrot exactly what he talks about, is that Aquarian idealism of the way we want things to be. And I think that it does reflect, because Saturn brings in a challenge. Saturn's the planet of karma, and it's bringing us a challenge in what we see as ideal at this particular period of time.
Oh boy, that really spells it out.
I don't know
Especially
what
since,
I don't know what Liz
well,
thinks about that.
no, we will hear that, but I want to bring up the fact that immediately I'm thinking of Saturn, which we'd brought up before, is very potent in this chart. It's still, as I think you had mentioned, Liz, in the beginning, that we all know that it's been in this long square to the nodes. It's leaving the intense application of it, but it's still an orb of it. Plus, Saturn is, what else? It has another aspect here. But go ahead, Liz. That's all I wanted to say. Yep.
Well, I was going to say the Sabian symbol for the ascendant and the part of fortune, 17 Aquarius. A watchdog stands guard, protecting his master and his possessions. So protecting and safeguarding one's individual rights under complex social pressure. And, so apropos for what's happening here in the United States.
And that is, go ahead. I was going to say it's quite a imagery. Yes.
And then we go on to 18 Aquarius. A man's secret motives are being publicly unmasked. It's difficult to keep past secrets or deep motives hidden. So it's like things are coming to the surface. So I think that we'll hear more. There's more information to come out. So do you have anything to add to that, Justin?
Well, I kind of had to laugh at how exact that is with the January 6th stuff going on. I mean, we're hearing now that a lot of this wasn't just a spur of the moment. It was actually planned. And that, to me, is the unmasking that we see the Sabian symbols being very literal there, that we're seeing it unmasking.
And then I added one more, 19 Aquarius. A forest fire is being subdued by the use of water, chemicals, and sheer muscular energy. It takes skill to bring a fire under control, and there's the destructive potential of carelessness.
Yeah, so it does really also contribute a parallel thought to earlier when we're talking about the duality, that was brought up with other energies. I think I'm trying to remember if it was the duality of 7 Cancer itself, 2 spirits, and then also of Jupiter, which is squaring that energy of a dualism, succeeding to express themselves simultaneously in 2 ways, but we have it correlated a lot of polarity, of course, and it gets right down to that watchdog who's on guard, who's watching out for whose rights. I noticed that when I woke up today, right on my phone was the Supreme Court action is prompting. Of course, the idea is everybody is rallying for their rights, but whose rights? And when we look at, of course, this is a conversation coming up next week, but it's always on my mind this year and will be for the next number of years, is how we're reforming our consciousness as a people, as a nation, as a communication, like who's included. Aries, the
often referred to as discord, but she wasn't that intentionally. All she did was ask who's the fairest, and now asking who has the rights, because Eris with her brother Mars are in that tension of transform with Pluto, saying, you know what, aren't all females maybe included? And it's difficult. It's identity. It's just one more identity along with Chiron to come up with it. There's many players on the table, as we see. So that's one of the conversations.
Yes. And then can we go to the midheaven next?
Oh, yes.
Which rules Jupiter, or Jupiter rules the midheaven in Sagittarius. So 5 Sagittarius. An owl sits alone on the branch of a large tree. A wise approach based on a clear perception.
That's looking up.
And then 6 Sagittarius is a game of cricket. Skill and testing the collective goals.
What do you think about that?
Well,
Justin?
it's like...
Well, no, I want to hear what Liz had to say.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Good, Liz.
We're being tested in the school of life. But go ahead.
No, I agree with you. I think, and it's about perspective there, when you were that part of that is about perspective. Yeah, it's about perspective.
Complicated. Nothing's really simple. When it gets to perspective, it's, the flip side of Jupiter is opinionated, righteousness, all that stuff. It takes quite a bit to let new information in to say, well, maybe was I right? Was I wrong? And who's being protected? Who's the watchdog? It's an intriguing. So Cancer, if we're going to release, heal, and grow, then there's really releasing, of course, gets me right down to the South Node because it's in Scorpio. So, of course, the shadow side of anything wants to be let go so we can live, we can grow more, right? That's Scorpio, yes, folks?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And so healing, and as you brought up Hygeia, Justin, there's a lot of energy, and it's in Scorpio. It wants the health, but what's it going to take? What do we have to operate on?
Well, I think I tell people we're going to be okay. I like to think back to that. You brought it up briefly, but with that Mars and Aries, is, of course, it's squaring Pluto, but it's also an opposing Hygeia. So when you look at, I think, that Liz read the Sabian Symbols, the possibility for gaining new experience, new potentialities, that both the 25 and the 26 degrees speaks to potentiality. That there's that Mars opposing Hygeia, that we have to heal, but that there's potentiality coming after the healing, and there's growth potentiality.
Oh.
Would you agree with that?
Yes. And Eris and Mars are brother and sister. So it's like working together, the male and the female. And it doesn't matter. You could be your brothers or your neighbors or any of that. But
it's that unity, the beautiful.
Right. Yeah, and it's in a T square with Pluto and Ceres. So that's really interesting too. So. Yeah,
the grief. There is undoubtedly a lot of grief to be reclaimed for sustenance. Yes, there are a lot of changes here. I know that you include North Node and South Node for Sabians, and that's maybe we want to discuss the North Node at 21 degrees Taurus, and of course then it goes back to 20 degrees because it moves in reverse.
Sure, the North Node is at 21 Taurus, a finger pointing to a line in an open book. So discerning what is the meaning of that line to you personally. Because sometimes, we read something or somebody says something And it could have been meant as a compliment, but somebody takes it as an insult, as an example. And then 20 Taurus, wisp of wing-like clouds streaming across the sky, awareness of spiritual forces at work. So a lot of these degrees have talked about nature, spirits, spiritual forces, soul. I mean, it's like the themes, it's like in the chart, the symbols, it's like just repeat. It's saying it over and over and over again.
Yes, I agree. Justin?
Well, I also like the South Node because, that's what we're bringing into it. And I think, she had mentioned that 21 degree Scorpio is a soldier obeying his conscience and resisting an order. So there's this, as Liz had put it, this conflict of values or beliefs. And I think that's really kind of what we've been dealing with for the past 3 or 4, 5 years in the collective, is this of really kind of going back and seeing that not everybody in the collective has the same values or the same belief systems. And so it's asking us in this period of, again, back to what we were talking about, introspection and healing, about being true to you, obeying his conscience, that thing, being true to your values and your belief systems, speaking your truth, what is true to you.
It's empowering, really, because there is, boy, I'm trying to read this and think at the same time, but actually consequences gets back into karma, doesn't it, or something. It's really spelling it out too from Saturn's viewpoint, that does rule karma very much, and it's squaring, so we're toggling. It's another energy, between those. Mm-hmm.
And and I'm not sure if Liz, you read the thing for Aquarius yet, but it's there's something about wisdom coming out of experience, out of that. And I think that's what we're seeing here, is learning to overcome obstacles and learning through a wisdom through these experiences that we're having in the collective. I don't know what you think about that, Liz.
Yeah, because that was Saturn 24 Aquarius, a teacher having overcome her passions, teaches deep wisdom in terms of experiences. And that was the overcoming of the obstacles. And then Aquarius 25, a butterfly with a right wing more perfectly formed, develop a rational mind ahead of normal evolution. It's like, how do I compensate for the wing being a different size or shape?
Or seeing the picture, yes. I mean, it's so brilliant there in front, but yet not having it. Often the mind does travel faster. It can see the picture, but yet the feeling and all the other parts just haven't hooked up to it yet. I think that's part of it. It's because you can't really fly with one wing. I don't care what anybody says.
Well, you might fly in a circle.
Yeah.
And I wanted to say that Mercury is square to Juno. So work on communicating with partners and making sure that you understand what the partner or your partners are communicating to you too. It's a two-way street.
Yeah.
Now this is off the wall. I'm sorry, I do come up with off the wall things, but I just noticed that we're all wearing black. At least it looks like you are too. No, maybe you're not, Justin. But last week, was it the week before, we were all, I know, it was another panel, we were all wearing red. So, I don't wear black very often. They say it's a power color, but it is, in a sense, an intriguing commentary. I'm trying to integrate this little off the wall thought, but I know, I'm trying to say, if we're communicating, maybe we're communicating in a sense abstractly, anyway, communication's important. I'll be more deliberate. Okay, back to the center.
Well, and black contains all colors, so
right.
Yeah, okay.
You know,
Do we want to talk?
I wanted to point out really quickly about to what Liz was saying about the Mercury, and it is there is a positive aspect in the chart here. Again, I'll bring up another positive aspect that Mercury is trining Saturn, and that part of fortune and the ascendant. So it's trining Saturn in the part of fortune, and the degrees of that, I think, as Liz read, I think the 18 and 19 degrees about sort of this flexibility, and with the two Chinese men, I've found in my own experience that this particular Sabian symbol, two Chinese men converse in their native language in American City. Really, I've seen this a lot where people, it creates in a personality, a person that's being able to move into different areas or different groups and able to communicate with them based on past experience, and that I'm not sure what you thought about that, Liz, the Mercury degrees.
Well, and being comfortable, that you can speak, because I speak Spanish too, but I'm much more comfortable speaking English. So being able to speak my own language is way more comfortable.
I am very excited to have you bring this up, because going back to Maki Maki, it's at 19. No, it's at, wait a minute. Oh, rats. No, that's right. It's 7 degrees. Oh, rats. Delete. Okay, I was thinking it was a grand trine because of the cultural ideas. That's what sparked my mind. But I will say, because it is in that T-square, that this communication that you're talking about is very important for the cultural changes that we are undergoing. And it is a matter of people finding their language and their perspectives, whether it's actually because you come from a different culture or because you're just another person. I think that's part of this world, is that we stop labeling people by how they look and where they live and all these other parts of them, but let the person resonate as they are, that individuality. It's thankfully, you were mentioning about the moon conjunct Uranus. Well, Uranus in a month is going to be conjunct the North Node on July 31st. And authenticity, yes. And right now, if we have an ascendant here, it wants authenticity. Aquarius, be the real deal. Get down.
And the next Sabian symbol for the moon is 18 degrees Gemini. A large archaic volume reveals traditional wisdom. The planetary mind, the collective knowledge is all coming forward.
Oh, that was for Mercury, right? You're saying?
Yes.
19 degrees Gemini, yeah. And I think there again, the word wisdom comes up, which is what we saw in the Saturn, right?
Yes. And then Chiron is square Ceres, and Ceres is the goddess of agriculture, fertility, and motherly relationships. So it's like there could be some wounding that's happened or opening old wounds, but there can also be healing taking place.
Well, speaking of that, I love how the Sabian symbols can be very literal, and so we're seeing this issue with the Ukrainian conflict. There's because they are part of the breadbasket of the world. There's this. You said that series, that part of the rules of the agriculture and food is that and with Chiron, there's that. We're already talking about food shortages, because of the Ukrainians not being able to get out their grain export. So I love it how sometimes the symbols can be very literal.
Yes, it is enlightening. Anyway, so Chiron. Interestingly, did you talk about Chiron? Because I'm noticing in your notes that you so kindly sent, the way it's going from 16 to 17 has a lot to transform. It was the message in the long run. So maybe it will be out of this grief, because there is potential
sorrow. Without food, that's not a good thing. But what I'm getting at is with Chiron always is, what are my wounds that I can transmute to be of service and assist others? It's my, like, from the me to the we, the thee. So if I'm translating that well, and if it's ability to transform, it's going to require all of us to really do this internal work. In a way, we can hardly help but not do it, I guess.
Right. And sometimes the initial injury or hurt or wound can seem one way at first, but then when you have that, you can gain something else that was like, wow, if this wouldn't happen, the next thing wouldn't, the next opportunity or great thing to come in might not have happened. And so sometimes at first it seems like, oh, this is terrible, but then there's oftentimes a gift through the change and transmutation.
Well, and also I want to point out a synchronicity here. We know that Moon and Sun are opposing Chiron. And it's interestingly, when we talk about spiritual help, that Liz, that Sabian symbol, 16 degrees Aquarius, talks about nature spirits are seen at work in the light of sunlight, invisible forces of nature. And then we look at the 7 degrees Cancer. Again, we're talking about two nature spirits. Again, talking about nature spirits, the mysterious, magical, invisible forces at work in the background. So I thought that was interesting. I'm just curious to what you all think about the whole nature spirits and invisible forces here showing up with the Moon and Chiron.
Well, I think that we have to be conscious of what we're doing to planet Earth, because the nature, it supplies us with water, it supplies us with food, that we grow. And so there's some, it's like kind of like they're knocking on the door. Be aware of what you're doing and make adjustments, make, like heal the earth, heal things.
It seems to, I appreciate all this. Going back to the culture, and of course in Cancer is very personal and it's a tribal, but yet we are in this world of humanities and we're interacting with communication and resources everywhere. And so really it is a matter of reframing who are we including, and perhaps really welcoming the larger context of our entire scheme of the family of man. Like I think Margaret Mead said 50 years ago or something. So there is promise, of course, as we share. And that's a lot of it. Yeah, sharing. Finding how to be of use to other people's and all that. And there's a lot of transition. But there's so many little ways. I was thinking so many little ways. I know that the radio station here at KKNW is sending teddy bears to Ukraine, which is a part of a big process. And one can think teddy bears, but yet for a little child, remember there was some great young athlete that was also sharing the need of a stuffed animal, that it's something to cherish. It's yours. It's that aminism in a sense, so much. So we can all, I guess, find new roles. Go ahead.
And everybody can chip in to help, even if it's something really, really small, because all the small things add up to be something much bigger. And
they do.
And it's going to take a group of us to work on it to make improvements.
It is that adage of it takes a village in everything. And so it's a matter of letting people in that are learning to communicate, right? Like you said, with the Gemini. Yeah. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. And next week, folks, do come back, because we're having our second part to U.S.
a Pluto return and power, and we're going to talk about revolutionary terms. Justin helped me think about that, and I went, okay, here we go. We will succeed through the steps. Blessings all.
Thank you for joining us on Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Rose Minahan and her panel of guests connect soul growth patterns with the energetic cycles of astrology. Be sure to tune in next Sunday at 1 p.m. Pacific Time to continue your journey through the roots of the cosmic pathway.